Hello, I'm Larry Rose. I'm retired and I work for Ambraco on a part-time basis. And one of the things I do is I go around and train technicians on how to work on balers. And also I give some training tips to farmers, customers. And so that's what we're going to try to do here today. Just try to give you some tips on how to make this baler work. Okay? The first thing we want to do is on threading the net. There's an easy way, and then there's a harder way. The easy way is right here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this back. I'm going to throw it over. A lot of people then try to thread it with this down here, but that makes it difficult. The easy way is to push it up, out of the way. I'm going to unlock the brake over here, and I'm going to give it 3 shallow pumps, and then I'm going to lock it on number 4. So how I do that is I gather this net up, and the key here is I'm going to make a twist, and I'm going to take my fingers, and I'm going to push that up in there just as far as I can. Okay? Once I do that, I give it just 3 shallow pumps. 1, 2, 3, and lock it on number 4. Just to ensure that I got it in there, I give it a little tag. See this here come out? I didn't do it right. Okay? So again, I take this, I gather it up, I twist it, I make sure I get that pushed up in there. I didn't get it pushed up in there good enough the first time. Okay? I push it 1, 2, 3, I lock it on 4. Now I pull it, and it's stuck. Regardless of how you do it, you never want that net to go in over a 1/2 inch or 1 inch. Okay? If you want to do it a different way, okay, but regardless, again, it doesn't go in there over a 1/2 inch. If it does, your first bale coming out here, this rubber roll will wrap with net. Okay, we'll shut her off. After I cut the tail, to determine if I need powder on the roll or not, is I hold this up here to see if it has any static electricity. If it doesn't have any static electricity, then I don't need powder. Okay? There is a procedure though for powdering a roll. There's a correct way and then an incorrect way. The incorrect way is when I put powder on here, okay, take my hand and smooth it on here. That is now a light gray, and we really don't want that. That can cause some issues. So when you put the powder on, then you take a shop rag and you just wipe it off. In other words, after we put the powder on, we want that to look a dark gray. One of the main problems that cause this rubber roll to wrap is the brake. On this brake here, it's supposed to take 40 to 70 pounds, what they call rolling torque. Okay, this one here is going in about 60, as you can see. Okay, if it doesn't, then it's just a matter of loosening these bolts here, taking this shim and put it up in front. I recommend at the beginning of each use season that you would start out with a new brake pad. Okay? That's the end of that. That can cause this rubber roll to wrap is how high up in the operator's manual is what we call a counter knife. Okay? So to determine how high up this is going to come, we need to go up to the monitor. Okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this on, and when I turn this on, I'm going to have somebody stand there in the back, and we're going to observe how high up this counter knife comes when I push this wrap button. So just momentarily here, we will go to the back. The next thing that causes this roll to wrap depends upon how high this part we call a counter knife comes up. You'll notice here I put a mark here, and on the operator's manual they call that a notch, and we want that counter knife come up to or past that 3/8 of an inch a little bit. Okay, so you'll be standing here just like I am. Now you'll have somebody push the wrap button on the monitor. See how that comes just up to that mark? Okay, if it's down below that mark, it can cause that roll to wrap. Okay, shut it off. Over here is the idler. It's really what I call a stop bolt. It determines how high up that counter knife came over there on that right hand side, and we do that by adjusting this idler here. Just remember, if that is below that 3/8 of an inch, it can cause that roll to wrap because the net will hit it. So here's where we control that, is right here. All right? The issue that can cause this roll to wrap is this pin right here that you see. If that pin starts wearing into this side sheet here, that can cause this roll to wrap because it will allow the sheave to pull away from the brake. So if that happens, if you look right here and you see where that pin is digging into the side sheet, there's a little repair you have to do, okay? So to stop that pin from wearing into the side sheet requires welding 3/4 inch key stock, 1 inch long. See it in front here and also here, okay? So just remember, if that pin is wearing in there, you have to weld 3/4 inch key stock, 1 inch long, in front of this cast iron piece, and you have to do the same thing over there on the left hand side. Okay. That can cause this roll to wrap is the brace. This brace should be taken out at least once a year, and if you're in dirty conditions like corn stalks, you're going to have to take it out more often than that. And then, like this has already been done, we just took a screwdriver or some instrument like that and cleaned this off, put it back, okay? When we put it back, we want this backing right here to be within a 1/16 of an inch of this steel roll. It comes to this, what we call the number 11 roll wrapping with net. It is when the top of this bale gets too close to the number 11 roll. And here's what goes on here. As the net starts down, it gets caught right down there by the pickup, and this net is traveling about 7 feet per second. So in 3 seconds, we have one complete wrap. So right up here to the very top, it's about the blink of an eye, and it's all over. So the closer this bale gets to this number 11 roll, the more likely it is going to wrap with net. And here's what causes that. Is on the monitor, that number of like 72 inches, that's a stop sign. That is when you're supposed to be stopped. It does not mean now put on the brake, because when you do, you continue to feed a little hay in there, and this bale gets ever closer to that number 11 roll, then the net doesn't have a chance getting from like 11 o'clock over to 1 o'clock, and this roll will wrap. So you have to learn to be stopped whenever bale diameter you have set. If you don't, you have the chances then of this roll wrapping with net. Also, what goes on here, when you start making oversized bales, it puts tremendous pressure in this bale chamber here, and you're more likely to have belt, bearing, and roll failure. So just remember that oversized bales is the number one thing that causes that roll to wrap. The other one is, though, is right here, if we're in corn stalks, And if that net can't fall off of those belts quick enough, again, it'll carry it up there in this roller wrap. But regardless of which way it is, you have to reduce bail diameter to stop that. There's no parts you can buy to stop it other than just reduce bail diameter. In the operator's manual, under recommended baling guidelines, it tells you here in bold letters what kind of RPMs you ought to be running. Okay? And as you look through there, it says normally they want 1800. And then if you read a little farther, it goes down and says maybe even 1500. And only under very heavy crop windrows would you ever operate over 1800. And here's the reason why. So let's come over here. When you're operating at too high of a PTO speed, the bale is spinning too fast and hay is flying off and it winds up on top of these belts. Okay? Then what happens is this net coming down here, and right there where that belt guide is, that net has got to go under that guide. That's a 5/32 opening, and that if we get too much crop buildup in there, it will hairpin right around this guide and cause tears around the bale. Other words, you're going to let this rear gate, when you open it up, to tell you what your PTO speed ought to be. When you start seeing too much buildup in there, it's telling you that you've got to reduce the PTO speed and then shift up to maintain ground speed. Okay. When it comes to reducing engine RPMs or PTO speed, the monitor is set for rated PTO speed, and so it will affect the number of wraps on a bale, unless you have the clutch alert speed sensor on your baler. If you do, then you don't need this part. But if your baler does not have the clutch alert speed sensor on it, then you manually got to go in and change that monitor setting, because the monitor is set for rated PTO speed. For example, if I having 2 wraps, then I want the guide here says I should increase that to 2.4. If I go to down to 1500 RPMs or reduce PTO speed again, it says increase it to 2.9. Okay? And while I'm here talking on these recommended baling guidelines, what we want here is we want a foot or 2 overlap. So if it's got 2 wraps, a foot or 2 overlap. Any more than that is a waste of material until you go to another complete wrap. Other words, the net is no stronger than the last complete wrap. Here, it has nothing to do with the net wrap, but it does have to do with this, tearing this keeper off of this pin here. If you'll notice that a lot of times on balers, if they'll have this hanging down just like this right here, and then when this chain goes by, it'll jerk this little keeper off. So the way we done it here is we put, I don't know if keeper's a good word, but we put this on first, okay? And then we put the pin upside down to keep pressure on it, and that will probably now last the life of the baler. Another one we have here is this chain link breaking right here. And what we have found, 2 things. One of them is you should be able to rotate this without a lot of resistance. Okay? You need to do that. The other thing that what people are telling me, I don't know if it's true or not, but what people are telling me to stop a lot of that, they put a sleeve on here, like a bicycle inner tube or a hose or something like that. Okay? To replace this pad, there's 2 ways you can do it. One of them is when I go to remove this pad, I can't get it out of here. There's not enough room. So I can remove this Carter key. That's one way, but that's the hard way. The easy way is we go up to the monitor. If we go to channel 19, and how we go to channels is real simple. In the operator's manual, it says to push the counter key at the 1, 2, 3, and then turn it on. That's my channels. Okay? Now to change channels, again I push on the 1, 2, 3 key, the counter key, and in this case here, I need to go to channel 19. On 19, now on the surface wrap, I have control of the actuator. I can extend it and I can retract it on channel 19. So I'm going to extend it on channel 19. Okay, now let's go back. Extend it. I can easily remove the brake pad. So you got two choices. You can either go to channel 19 or you got to remove the counter key. Your choice. We have two shims in here. I put the two shims back in. This is a new pad. Whoops, do that. Well, I found a way. Then I'll put the spare one here in the back. Now I'll go back up to the monitor, channel 19. Now I push the retract, and I'm ready to go. And I check my rolling torque. Probably one of the biggest things I found is customers do not keep this adjustment maintained. Okay? Here's how they can tell if this is loose or not or needs adjusted without a torque wrench. Here's how we can tell if that brake is below the 40 to 70 foot-pounds rolling torque. When you look right in here and you see this steel roll, that net should be up tight against the steel roll as I'm showing it here on my arm. When it starts pulling away, right here is telling us that that brake needs adjusted and it's going to hit this counter knife and cause that roll to wrap. Probably one of the biggest things I've seen is customers do not maintain that rolling torque of that brake. Because when that happens, the net starts pulling away from that steel roll and it'll hit this part called a counter knife on its way up and this roll will wrap.